This meeting of the Essex County Board of Chosen Freeholders is hereby called to order. Due to COVID-19 outbreak and to be in compliance with the governor's executive order, this meeting is being conducted remotely. The public is able to view this meeting via a live stream on YouTube. A link for the live stream is posted on the Freeholder website, which is www.ecfnj.com. To all who are participating in the meeting, please be mindful to put your microphone on mute until speaking. Additionally, please identify yourself by putting your name on the record each time before you speak. Just ask that my colleagues on the Freeholder board again to be mindful of that, just to identify yourself for the record every time before you speak. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Freeholder Cooper.
Here.
Freeholder Graham.
Present.
Freeholder Johnson.
Here.
Freeholder Luciano. Mr. President, he is here. Visually, we're dealing with some sound issues. So through you, we recognize that Freeholder Luciano is here. Freeholder Mercado, absent. Freeholder Pomares.
Here.
Freeholder Vice President Richardson.
Here.
Freeholder Siebel.
Here.
Freeholder President Gill.
Here. Okay, we will omit the salute to the flag since we are conducting this meeting remotely. However, we will ask for a moment of silence for all those who have been affected and those that we have lost due to the COVID-19 virus. I ask that we please pause for a moment of silence. Okay, thank you. I have before me certification that from the clerk that this meeting is in compliance with the Open Public Meeting Act. Madam Clerk, are there any transcripts to be approved?
Yes, Mr. President, there are two. Conference Board meeting May 13th, 2020 and May 27th, 2020.
Okay, freeholders, do I have any questions or comments? Hearing or seeing none, freeholders, I have a motion from Freeholder Cooper and a second from Freeholder Graham to approve the transcripts. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Cooper.
Yes.
Freeholder Graham.
Yes.
Freeholder Johnson. Freeholder Johnson. Freeholder Luciano, if yes, indicate by Freeholder Luciano is yes. Freeholder Mercado is absent. Freeholder Pomares.
Yes.
Freeholder Vice President Richardson.
Yes.
Freeholder Siebel.
Yes.
Freeholder President Gill.
Yes.
So moved.
Okay, Madam Clerk, are there any topics of discussion?
Mr. President, there are none.
Okay, Madam Clerk, let's move to the public comment session today. Today's meeting is a combined conference board meeting. We will vote on every item on the agenda. Since we are meeting remotely, the public has had the opportunity to submit questions and comments for consideration. At this portion of the meeting, the clerk will read questions on agenda items only into the record and state the names of the constituents.
The first comment, Mr. President, is from Kate Singer of Millburn, New Jersey, regarding Resolution 2, 3, and 4. To the freeholders, while I commend the use of county budget to secure legal services for the immigrants detained in Essex County, I want to see much more action on this issue because what is happening in our county detention centers is immoral and inhumane. Even though the freeholders are the first in the entire nation to implement an oversight body for a correctional facility without a consent order, I'm still looking for more. President Gill recently stated, I'm diligently working towards a plan to responsibly wind down the contract with ICE. I maintain and reiterate that I am against holding undocumented immigrants in jails where they endure punitive criminal consequences for alleged civil offenses. The civil offense being their immigration status. And Freeholder Luciano said on a recent panel for freeholder candidates that he works with Joe DiVincenzo not for him. So then I asked, what has anyone done in the past month towards that plan? Gil referenced. Has the oversight board met yet? If not, when will they? Can the public access their agenda? Have the freeholders and the county executive been in discussion over the issue of ICE and the detained immigrants? The freeholders seem to do most work behind the closed doors, so it is very difficult for the public to know the status of any particular issue. To that end, I'm asking for a status report in the form of the answers to the above questions. The next comment is by Sally Jane Gellard of Woodcliff Lakes, New Jersey, regarding Resolution 37. My comment responds to the agenda item 37, sponsored by Freeholder Seabold. I appreciate the resolution communicates an awareness of intolerable societal racism highlighted by the formation and exploitative growth of the movement for Black Lives, a movement that reminds us that we will not have justice until Black Lives Matter to our government, institutions, and indeed to everyone in our society. However, given the urgency, particularly in the uprisings that the death of George Floyd set off as a final straw for the people oppressed for way too long, it strikes me as weak, without specifics, that will make our millennium enhanced siblings safer. It seems a symbolic statement, a check off the box effort to be on the record in support without taking serious action. Why not include something like, we direct all law enforcement officers in Essex County to follow the Attorney General's Immigrant Trust Directive and limit cooperation with ICE to only federally mandated items. Or we direct the Essex County Sheriff's Department to release publicly all information on major disciplinary actions against police officers by name for the last 5 years or 10 or 20 years. So pass the resolution, I guess. It does no harm, but don't consider that absolves you from all the real work to ensure that in Essex County, to every public official, Black lives really do matter. The next comment by Stacy Gregg of Rockaway, New Jersey, regarding Resolution 37. Dear freeholders, in the past 6 months and longer, I have not received answers to my questions sent in, not by email or letter, and definitely not at your freeholder meeting. Please stop lying to me and other concerned citizens that my answers for Essex County freeholders will be mailed. One answer was sent via snail mail almost a year ago, but that you jail 95% of Black and people of color for ICE. For this month, my question is, when each and every single one of you on the freeholder board vote for renewals of the ICE contracts over and over again, ignoring the begging pleas from family members and those held, ignoring those loudly opposing ICE contracts, and the majority of Democratic community in Essex County is supporting welcoming immigrants to Essex County. People with morals welcome immigrants into the U.S. rather than locking up vulnerable people, because doing so is a money-making opportunity that deportation Joey can't pass up under the lie that if he doesn't take the money, someone else will, and people will go to worse jails. Well, you know from the report of failed inspections, from the failed report inspection, Essex County isn't even up to the lowest ICE standards. Blood money, because it is made off of the bodies being abused, being held indefinitely in cages, separated from families and from living free with whatever time on earth they have. How do you see yourself as Democrats having anything to do with ending systemic racism and the Black Lives Matter movement when you jail 95% Black people of color for ICE? Shamefully allowing Mrs. Seabold to be the one to present the Resolution 37 in support of BLM is hypocritical and disingenuous, since as recently as last week during a town hall with challenges to her position as freeholder, she called people held by ICE murderers and stated she went on a tour and there are stories she could tell. Well, my other question is, what are the stories to be told about Black and people of color held by ICE by Mrs. Siebel? Siebel certainly sounded like a Trumper when she was yelling, especially when she used the phrase illegal immigrants. Quickly, true Democrats pointed out no human being is illegal. She's also admittedly votes 100 with deportation Joe that boldly even endorsed Chris Christie. With the deadly coronavirus running through the jail, so why did you not call for the release to family of 100% of all ICE detainees? Why has Essex County Freeholder still not called to end the contract with ICE? Brendan Gill's false promises that you, the freeholders, will improve the lot and condition of detained people with guidance from organizations with representations on the Civil Review Board. The board is 100% controlled by Deportation Joe. Resolution 37, I ask that all Essex County freeholders truly support Black Lives Matters movement until they immediately release 100% of people held by ICE in Essex County. No deportations, no transportations, free them all to families and supporting community organizers waiting to welcome them as citizens. It is still not a crime to ask for asylum. With the coronavirus, it shouldn't be a death sentence either. The next comment is from Jake Ephros, no address giving, regarding Resolution 37. Dear Essex County Board of Chosen Freeholders, Resolution 37 could be a commendable nod to the current movement for Black lives in the uprisings across the nation and the world. It could be commendable, but on its own, this resolution is hardly more than a cheap virtue signaling a way for this board to capitalize on the crisis of racism in the U.S. You do not leave this meeting feeling accomplished or even woke if you pass this resolution without substantial advocacy and policy work for fundamental transformations of how our county, state, and nation approach the concept of law enforcement. Namely, there are two things that this board should be working on in addition to Resolution 37 in order to express anything other than self-congratulatory ignorance. First, listen to Black Lives Matter activists and organizations who are demanding that we defund police departments. The resolution rightly notes that Black African Americans suffer disproportionate deaths by police, but how are we at the point of allowing police to kill people at all? What are you actually going to do to stand up against a system of law enforcement that is specifically designed to manage economic inequalities and protect private property interests, which limits the freedom of Black and brown people through the surveillance and murder, and also drains valuable community resources from other public services? Any resolution that declares Black Lives Matter must seriously deal with the content of Black Lives Matter activists, hard work, and political struggle. That is the dismantling of our violent and racist police apparatus. Secondly, you have had the pleasure of hearing from me before. There can be no ICE in Essex County. As freeholders, you have passed an incredibly timid resolution asking ICE to release people from detention at Essex County Correctional Facility. To make an actual substantial accomplishment, you must actively work to pressure your fellow office holders and end the ICE contract in a responsible way so no one is transferred. Use the new oversight board or another body to begin a public and transparent process to solicit stakeholder comments and input based on community input and come up with a definite end date for ICE contract. Until then, accept no transfers from other facilities, no rollovers from the correction side of the jail, no new emissions from community enforcement. Especially in the light of this proposed Black Lives Matters resolution, said steps are crucial. Black immigrants are currently being caged and detained here in our communities. How can you possibly declare Black Lives Matter and simultaneously sit on your hands and consistently deny yourselves the power and responsibility to do anything more about ICE? The next comment is submitted by Whitney Stroop of Newark, New Jersey, regarding Resolution 37. Dear freeholders, I'd like to commend you on agenda item 37, resolution in support of Black Lives Matter. I believe that Black Lives Matter, but also that Essex County freeholders should place an asterisk next to the name of this resolution for accuracy, so that it reads, resolution in support of Black Lives Matter, except the ones whose detention helps fund Essex County. Dear, does Farooq Kamiru's life matter to Essex County freeholders? Do any of you remember his name? He was the Bronx cab driver who claimed that correctional officers inside Essex County Correctional Facility sexually assaulted him, including penetrating him with an unknown object. He was taken to University Hospital for anal bleeding. ICE deported him to Ghana before an investigation could be completed in August 2019. I have questions for you regarding this case, for which I have written request response. For which I request a written response. Do you remember this incident? 2, can any freeholder show me any evidence of any follow-up whatsoever on your part? Did any of you send email, make calls, lift a single finger to show that Black Lives Matter, which means Farooq Kamiru's detention here in Newark? What was the outcome of the investigation into this case? Black Lives Matter, our immigration policy, and your profiteering from it is built on anti-Black racism, and my heart breaks for Black immigrants, community members held in your ICE dungeon so that wealthy Essex County residents can pay marginally lower taxes. You dedicate a tiny portion of your ICE revenue to legal resources. Some of you frame your detainees as murderers and criminals while they're held in civil detention. If you believe Black Lives Matter, do more. Words are cheap, prove it in action in the ICE contract, and provide full legal representation to all those you hold for the shameful racist system. The next comment is from Cassandra Adams of Jersey City regarding Resolution 37. Freeholders, I'm asking you as a citizen to end your harmful contract with ICE. I demand you set an immediate date for which you will end this contract. I support Freeholder Seabold's Resolution 37 declaration and Black Lives Matter. We stand in solidarity and loudly declares Black Lives Matter. No matter where you are, Black Lives Matter. And a system of fair, transformative, and restorative justice that is accountable to communities is something to which each of us has a right. We want to extend this to Black, brown, immigrants, refugees. All live in the Essex County Jail. Thank you. The next comment was submitted by Umar Hussein. No address given regarding Resolution 37. I'm glad Essex County freeholders has recognized the presence of systemic racism in our society. Have they considered speaking to an elected official with the power to enact meaningful change to address these issues? I hear there's a board, a freeholder meeting today. Maybe you can persuade them to do something beyond releasing statements and resolutions. Sincerely, Umar Hussein. The next comment was submitted by Terry Suez of Union in New Jersey regarding Resolution 51 to Essex County freeholders. As part of this resolution to highlight the injustices of mass incarceration and immigrant policies, I hope you will take the opportunity to do something significant and make necessary change in our community by ending the ICE contract with Essex County. Please set a date for ending the contract and begin a process next week to work with all stakeholders to ensure that this contract is ended, that security guards and service personnel at the ECCF are reassigned, and that all detainees have a place to be accepted within our community with family of sponsors. During the pandemic, please provide the directive to the ECCF not to accept transfers from other places and to cease additional admissions. Also, ECCF detainees must not be transferred to other locations. In instances, detainees should be released during the pandemic to ensure community health and safety. The American Medical Association and other respected medical associations have found that the dangers of incarceration during the pandemic will result in 3 times greater death rate than among the general population. Incarceration is risk to the lives of both prisoners and detainees at ECF. Please advise on the number of prisoners and detainees that have been released so far to avoid aggravating the dangers of COVID-19 through our community. Also, please provide the timetable for releasing the additional prisoners and detainees before the expected resurgence of the virus. Most importantly, please provide target end date for ICE contract and the date of setting up the process for an orderly conclusion of this contract. I would hope the ICE contract could be concluded by the end of August, places for detainees provided in the community, and reassignment of staff provided by them. The next comment is by Mariana Porta of Montclair regarding Resolution 51. My name is Mariana Porta, and I am a Montclair resident and naturalized U.S. citizen and Essex County voter. I'm ready to urge you to amend Resolution 51 to prevent the Essex County from turning over jail detainees who would otherwise be released to ICE immigration detention. I personally know 2 men who were detained by ICE in Essex County. Neither of these men were arrested by ICE. They're arrested by local law enforcement, processed as criminal detainees at Essex County, and transferred to ICE for immigration detention. These men should have been released, as neither county or municipal prosecutors decided to charge them, and neither were charged with a crime. You're selling members of our community to ICE. To you, they are federal dollars you can waste on an oversized, unnecessary correctional facility and sheriff staff. To these men are our friends. To us, these men are our friends, fathers, brothers, and husbands. They're valuable members of our community, and you're selling them to Trump. This practice is despicable, and anyone who endorses it is a sorry excuse for human being and does not deserve to call themselves Democrats. The next comment was submitted by Kathy O'Leary of Pax Christi, New Jersey, regarding Resolution 57. Dear members of Essex County Freeholder Board, my comments are in reference to the agenda item 37, the resolution in support of Black Lives Matter. I will start as I usually do. There will be no justice until you end the contract with ICE and until all immigrant detainees are free and until you stop seeing people in your custody as units from which revenue is derived rather than as children of God. With the recent activism surrounding the movement of Black Lives, Newark has been a standout. The mayor, Ross Baraka, the son of Amina and Amari Baraka, did not need to take a grandstand gesture to demonstrate that he embraced the movement for Black liberation into which he was born. It did not feel shallow, forced, or contradictory when he introduced Larry Hamm, the chairman of People Organization for Process, at the Black Lives Matter March, as it did at so many others in New Jersey and across the country, as chief of police in the office symbolically put their batons and pepper spray for a brief moment to take a knee. I cannot say the same about this resolution. Besides the glaring mistakes, misspelling Trayvon Martin's name, or the suggestion that Amadou Diallo was shot dead by the New York police after Trayvon Martin was killed, the value that all Black matters is not embodied in the action of words of this collective board. The resolution specifically mentions the injustices of mass incarceration and unjust immigration policies. Yet, during an ongoing pandemic, the county administration for which you provide oversight has already announced that it will be taking transfers from other facilities. Just yesterday, an article was published at the Journal of American Medical Association about a newly completed study on the risk of COVID-19 to people who are incarcerated. According to the study, people behind bars are 5.5 times more likely to contract COVID-19 and 3 times more likely to die from it. The authors conclude that the most effective way to avoid an imminent outbreak is to drastically reduce the population of jails and prisons by reducing unnecessary jail admissions and expediting prison release. Yesterday also marked the 7th anniversary of Pope Francis's first pastoral visit to the island of Lampedusa. During his homily, Pope Francis recalled his visit and the unimaginable hell that people who are seeking a better life are forced to endure in immigration detention. He also reminded Christians that they're called to see the face of Christ and all those who are suffering and seeking assistance. He reminded us that Jesus instructed, whatever you did for one of these least brothers of mine, you did for me. Christians are called to see the face of Christ in the stranger and in all who cross the borders, for Jesus himself was forced to flee with his family into Egypt and to live in a foreign land. Sadly, you cannot even see the faces of the people you incarcerate because you would immediately understand the hypocrisy of this resolution. You would recognize the disproportionate amount of Black men that you incarcerate in miserable conditions in jail. You would recognize that Black men that you incarcerate for ICE are being brutalized by an unjust system. You would know that there are Black men facing deportation in your jail. You would understand the cruelty and the harshness of the punishment of the indefinite detention and the potential of permanent exile. You would recognize that you are in a position of power, capable of enacting change, yet you sit idly by shuffling and stamping pieces of paper. When will you end the contract with ICE? If you will commit to end the contract, will you commit to engaging in public and transparent process to solicit stakeholder comments and community input to create a responsible end to the business of detention? During the pandemic, will you stop accepting transfers from other facilities and stop taking rollovers from correction sides of the jail and cease new emissions from community enforcement? All Black Lives Matter is what is painted in the street of Newark. For that saying to become truth to this governing body or even a believable goal in Essex County, you will have to end the contract with ICE and completely end your practice of generating revenue from all the people that you incarcerate. The next comment was submitted by Matt Dragon of West Orange regarding Resolution 37, 38, and 51. On Resolution 37, the text is now pulled down, so I hope it's still on the agenda because it's important we all affirm all levels of government, society, culture, that Black Lives Matter is a big driver in my pushing for the ECCF task force, as well as the work around the county's involvement with ICE, who, as it is often noted, is detaining Black folks in Essex County today. Thank you to the sponsors, and I hope you'll support the resolution today and not table it to pass it a month from now. On 38, again, thank you for putting this resolution forward, as it is, again, a very important topic that has been in front of mind for some 4 years, but now is receiving more public attention. I appreciate the freeholders formally registering their support of this idea, and again, would encourage you to support this resolution. On 51, while I would like for it to include even in-state transfer and street arrests, something is better than nothing. Giving the risk to inducing COVID into jail, even with the quarantine procedures. I would rather prioritize visitation over new ICE prisoners. Could you please speak about the next steps if you do pass the resolution? Is this any more binding considering it's an internal Essex function to accept prisoners? Or can the jail and administration just ignore the resolution? Thank you. The final comment is from Susan Goodman. No address given regarding Resolution 37. Essex County Freeholders passing Resolution 37 is a nice gesture, but meaningless unless you demonstrate that Black Lives Matter, that Brown Lives Matter, that immigration lives matter by ending your contract with ICE. It is disgraceful that Essex County continues to profit from the terror this rogue agency inflicts on immigrants, communities across the counties. ECCF is now also increasing a death camp as COVID cases rise. All studies show that prisoners are 5.5 times more likely to contact COVID. The population of the prison in Ohio has tested 100%. What are you waiting for? Free them all. No transfers, no rollovers, no new detainees. Let them go home to their communities, their families, where they can take care of themselves and be better taken care of, as you would want for your families. Undocumented people are not criminals. Stop treating them as such. Stop profiting for terrorizing them. Mr. President, that is the end of the comments we received regarding the agenda. For public comment 1, Mr. President, we will have a couple for public comment 2 at the end of the meeting regarding non-resolution items.
Okay. Okay, Madam Clerk, please ensure that this information is relayed to the administration for proper response. Madam Clerk, do we have any ordinances or resolutions for introduction and first reading?
Mr. President, we have none.
Okay, do we have any ordinances or resolutions for listing purposes only?
Mr. President, we have none.
Okay, do we have any ordinances or resolutions on second reading or public hearing?
Mr. President, we have none.
Okay, let's to resolution number 1, which is from the Office of Administration and Finance, and we can read it into the record at a later time. Mr. Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good afternoon, and congratulations to members of the board on your victorious election campaign. This first item is a $10 million agreement with the New Jersey Economic Development Authority to provide grants to small businesses in Essex County. As you know, we received funding from the federal government for CARES Act funding. This $10 million we will have in a partnership with the EDA to provide for grants up to $10,000, $1,000 per employee, with a maximum grant of $10,000 to businesses of 25 full-time employees or less. Instead of having our own program, we're going to do a partnership with EDA, who is fully up to speed and able to get the money out quickly and efficiently. So the administration has decided to have this agreement with EDA, joining, I think, Passaic and a couple of other counties are doing the same thing as well. And this is money that has to be dispersed by 12/1/20 and expended by the grantees by 12/31/20.
Thank you, Mr. Parlavecchio.
Questions, Mr. President?
Mr. McInerney.
Sorry, Mr. President, I have no comments.
Okay. Freeholder, do you have any questions or comments?
Mr. President, this is Freeholder Cooper.
Freeholder Cooper.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. I have a quick question. Do you guys have a flyer available for this? How is this being advertised so that it could be circulated? I would like to circulate this to some folks.
Mr. Oparakey from our small business office has information, as well as our public relations office. It's on the website, but we can get you specific information, Freeholder, on the program. And of course, EDA, excuse me, is also advertising it.
Did you say that this was a grant?
Yes, it's a grant. It's a grant.
Okay, $1,000 per person. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, up to $10,000.
Freeholders, additional questions or comments? Okay, I have a motion from Freeholder Graham and a second from Freeholder Johnson. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Siebel,
Yes.
Freeholder Vice President Richardson,
Yes, Freeholder.
Yes.
Freeholder Pomares,
Yes.
Freeholder Mercado, absent. Freeholder Luciano,
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Freeholder Johnson,
Yes.
Freeholder Romaine, Freeholder Graham,
Yes.
Freeholder Cooper,
Yes.
Freeholder President Gill.
Yes.
So moved.
Thank you. I don't know if that was just me, but Freeholder Luciano, his voice, it comes across like Lou Gehrig.
I through you, Mr. President, I don't think he thought we heard him, so you only have to, we hear you well, so you don't have to say yes or no or whatever once,
Okay.
Freeholder Luciano.
Very good. Okay, moving to resolutions number 2 through 4, which are from the Office of the County Council, and we can read them into the record at a later time. Mr. Jackson.
Mr. President, County Council Gassion is here to address these items.
Thank you. Courtney Gassion, Essex County Council. Resolutions 2, 3, and 4 are grant agreements for legal services, all in the amount of $300,000. You will recall, Mr. President, that last year we awarded $250,000 to each of these 3 entities for the representation of ICE detainees at the Essex County Correctional Facility. This is the same grant agreement with an increase, as I noted, from $250,000 to now $300,000 for a total of $900,000 granted to the three entities. Resolution number 2 is the grant agreement for Seton Hall University Law School to provide these services. Resolution number 3 is for the same legal representation by Seton Hall University. And number 4 is for, number 4 is for Rutgers University. Number 2 is for Seton Hall, and number 3 is for Legal Services of New Jersey. Those are the 3 legal service entities that will be providing these services. The agreements are essentially identical to the agreements that we entered into last year. Again, noting the increase in the amount given to all 3. The providers are on the phone with us here today, if you have any questions.
Okay, Mr. Palavecchio?
Yeah, I did have a question for the provider. I'm sorry, I have my camera off because I've had some technical difficulties I get with the internet. But if they wanted to say something on the record, then I could ask a question or two.
Mr. Palavecchio, yeah, if we have the providers, I'd love to hear from them at this time.
Would you like Seton Hall University to go first, Mr. President?
Not just because I'm a graduate, but yes.
Okay.
That would be my recommendation too.
Okay, and mine as well. If Seton Hall University Law School can just identify the speaker and then just maybe just give us an update as to the services that were provided over the last year and what the plans are going forward with the new contract that will be effective July 1.
Yes. Hi. So this is Susanna Volpe. I am also a practicing lawyer under the contract. First, thank you so much for renewing this contract and for the increase in funding. I think it is going to be hugely, or has already proven to be hugely beneficial both for Essex County residents and New Jersey residents to be able to get increased access to representation and services. Our plans going forward, we've been able thus far to serve multiple dozens of immigrants who are detained in Essex County and help them in securing release on bond, securing parole out of detention, and securing permanent legal status in the United States. I can look, I know the numbers for the last quarter. I don't know offhand the numbers of clients that we served for the full year, but I am calculating that as we speak. But I do know that in sort of each of the first 3 quarters, we served somewhere between 25 and 30 individuals received legal services, advice, and counsel, and we have provided full representation to many of those individuals. I will call those numbers from our total numbers in a moment. In the last quarter, however, before the various lockdowns due to COVID and the pandemic, we provided full representation and services to, I believe, 12 individuals and secured permanent relief for 3 of those individuals, and then we have another 3 whose cases remain pending. We plan going forward, we have a practitioner who is a full-time attorney who's devoted solely to doing this work, to providing representation for individuals detained at Essex. We have an attorney who 50% of her time, this is me, is devoted to providing representation to individuals at Essex. We've been able to hire law students. We've hired 3 law students, I believe, over the life of the past grant to assist us in providing representation to individuals in Essex, and that's been having them fully dedicated to that work. We've also been able to include students who are working with our law school clinics in this work and have had students work on 6 different cases through this. And going forward, we're looking at the possibility of hiring also a legal fellow to assist, so a new attorney who does not have significant experience to assist on these cases in addition to the 1.5 full-time attorneys that we already have. So those are our plans going forward, and some of our statistics. We have provided complete reports to our grantors, and I'm happy to answer more questions about it. I have the report in front of me, but our data is in a spreadsheet, so I'm counting manually as we go forward. So thank you again. We're really excited to be embarking on a second year of this grant, and I'm happy to answer questions.
Thank you. Courtney, why don't we also hear from the other providers that joined us?
Sure. Okay. Legal Services of New Jersey, if you can just identify yourself and then just give us a summary of the last year and what the money has been expended on it, and then the plans for Legal Services of New Jersey going forward with the new grant funds.
Sure. Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. This is Rakiba Huck from Legal Services of New Jersey. We appreciate the continued commitment to increasing representation and legal services for those who are detained at Essex County while the ICE contract is in effect. And just to echo on what Susanna said, and we've been working in partnership, so a lot of this is a collaborative effort. We have, with the funding, been able to staff 2 full-time equivalent attorneys who have joined our detention team and are working in connection with our larger unit that is funded through various sources, including the state, to provide representation at Essex County in particular, and also the other 2 ICE facilities in New Jersey. So again, all of our numbers, like as Susanna mentioned, we've been reporting, and all of those are available in our quarterly reports. But just to summarize, we've been able to give very thorough and extensive legal advice to just, I think probably, I would say on average 80 to 90 individuals each quarter, and then taking some of those cases for relief. We've seen cases of people who actually have claims to U.S. citizenship, people who are long-term permanent residents or long-term residents in New Jersey who are eligible to win the removal proceedings and stay here with their families and communities. And recently, part of our work, actually the bulk of our work in the last few months, has been using our detained funding to get people out. As we heard earlier, the threat of COVID is real, and even more so in a detained context. I don't think we can argue against that just scientifically. So we have been using our efforts to secure bond and parole and release, and working in connection with the other providers for that as well. So going forward, depending on where things go with this pandemic, we are dedicated and resolved to keep working for the people who are detained there, whether it's to secure release, whether it's to secure relief, or otherwise make sure they know their rights and options for making a decision in terms of what they want to do next. And they're looking forward to increasing that effort as the year continues. So thank you again.
Okay, thank you, Akiba. For resolution number 4, which is Rutgers Law School, we have Anju Gupta. Anju, can you provide us with the same summary for Rutgers?
Sure. Hi, everyone. This is Anju Gupta from Rutgers. I'm the director of the immigrant clinic there. And I echo what Susanna and Rakiba said, and we're really grateful for this funding that's allowing us to serve so many immigrants who are detained in the facility. So we, in addition to the grant from Essex County, we receive a small grant from the state as well. And with the grant money, we've been able to hire a full-time staff attorney working on these cases, as well as a full-time senior staff attorney. Again, 100% devoted to this project. Also a full-time paralegal. And with the increase of this year, we are planning to add a full-time postgraduate fellow. So someone who's, a recent graduate who would do this work for 2 years. And our hope is that they would then have the training to be able to kind of do this as a staff attorney thereafter. We also use a small amount of the funding to for a percentage of another staff attorney's time to work on these cases. And we do also also have many student interns that we've been able to fund with this funding who help with these cases, as well as, there are clinic students who we're not using any of the funding for, but that are able to kind of plug into this project as well, or to take on cases that come out of this project that we can't, take as part of the project, either because they were subsequently released from detention or, they're beyond the immigration court or Board of Immigration Appeals stage. We are, our numbers are, I'm looking at our third quarter report because the fourth quarter just ended a few days ago, so we haven't done our report for the fourth quarter yet, but based on our third quarter report, since our project began in January of 2019, we've met with about 200 detained individuals and did full intakes and screenings and gave advice and counsel to about 113 of them. We've represented 50 people in full removal proceedings and their bond hearings, 3 people in bond only proceedings, and 3 people in removal proceedings only, and also a couple of people in release requests because of COVID. And, many of our clients have been bonded out, and some of our clients also have been granted substantive immigration relief, which is great. Yeah, I think that's about it. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, Mr. Polavecchio.
Mr. President.
Yeah, while we're waiting for Mr. Polavecchio, Mr. McInerney?
Yes, one of the concerns that we did have, and was discussed, is the manner in which the funds were expended from the county to these agencies. I spoke to Mike Polavecchio, I spoke to county council as well, and it has been determined that these are considered grants. These are not law firms where they typically set up a trust account, so these are considered grants. The grant money was used to start the process up to provide these legal services. So under the guise of classifying them as a grant, we kind of preclude what some of the other questions were with regard to, we're still getting invoiced, but we're getting invoiced against the balance that's been prepaid on the grant. And if county council wants to add anything to that,
That's Mr. President, through you, Courtney Gassion, Essex County Council. That's correct. Mr. McInerney is correct in saying that these are grants. It's the same procedure that we awarded these monies last year. I will note that all 3 of the providers are required pursuant to the grant agreement to return to the county on a quarterly basis a summary of their expenditures. And those quarterly reports have been received by all of these providers. We are still waiting on the last quarter, which would have just ended last week on June 30th. So those have not been received yet, but they do have 30 days to get that to us. And those quarterly reports do identify the expenditures that they have made in the previous quarter, as well as a summary for the entire length of the contract. So there is an accounting mechanism in place to keep track of the expenditures for each of these 3 providers, and that same mechanism is in place for the upcoming contract year. And upon receipt of those, they have been provided to me, and then forwarded to the staff who has provided it onto the Freeholder board. So if anybody has any questions on those, we're happy to get them over to you again if need be.
Okay, Mr. Polavecchio.
President, I did discuss this with Mr. Polavecchio prior to the meeting. We both came to the same consensus that county council just spoke about.
Madam Clerk, I don't know about the other colleagues, but I'm still getting quite a bit of feedback. I'm having difficulty hearing folks. I don't know if the other freeholders are having the same issue.
I am as well, Mr. President. This freeholder registry.
Okay, Lionel, I will reach out to him. He stepped out. Debbie, would you get him? No, Lionel, would you? And, we'll get some attention to the feedback.
Thank you. Is Ms. Parlavecchio with us or not?
He had stated earlier he was having some problems with his internet. But I believed that he could hear, but he took off his video.
Okay.
So we'll have somebody call him.
Yeah, I need to know that because I don't want to move forward with the meeting without our board counsel.
Yeah, a message just flashed up that his call dropped off.
All right. I will check that, Mr. President.
We're gonna have to wait until we get the answer to that question.
Mr. President, I'm back.
Back. Very good.
Sorry about that. It's computer number 3 and internet number 4, so we're trying.
No problem. I'm just gonna ask also maybe to help with the feedback that all freeholders, please keep their laptops or however you're streaming the meeting on mute, please. So, Mr. McInerney. Excuse me, Mr. Parlavecchio.
Yes.
We're still on resolutions 2 through 4. I don't know if you were able to hear the testimony. I know you had questions that you potentially wanted to raise.
I did, and they may have been answered because I got cut off on each of the presentations. But I did hear some of it, and it sounds like the various providers are representing between a dozen and 3 dozen individuals per quarter. And I was wondering if that's an improvement from where they were before they received, or an increase from where they were before they received this funding from the county, and if there's anything that would allow them to see more people, or is it a matter of that's the max they can see, just who's accepting representation? I'm assuming some people decline representation. I'm just trying to find out if the grant monies have enabled them to see more people, and if there's something that we can do or they can do to see even more individuals at the correctional facility.
Yeah, well, should we answer in the same order that we started? I'm happy to start on behalf of Seton Hall. So again, this is Susanna Volpe on behalf of Seton Hall. So the numbers and sort of the staff that I reported as being funded through the grant on Seton Hall are solely because of this grant. So without this grant, this is not sort of cumulative reporting. This is solely what is funded by this particular grant. So to say that this grant from the county has made it possible to see all of the people that we saw that have been reported in these figures. And so I think at this point, we're always thinking about creative ways that we can leverage students who are not funded by the grant, but who are also doing clinical legal work and representing or assisting in the representation of people, or leverage other ways of expanding representation without it necessarily being tied to more funding. However, I think also more funding needs more representation. And so we are eager to use this additional funding to get more dedicated attorney and paralegal time towards this project. And we anticipate that that will allow us to have a direct increase in the number of people that we can represent. One caveat that I think is important, and I think, and my partners, Rakiba and Anju, can speak to this also, but I think one caveat important to keep in mind is that due to COVID and the smart measures that Essex County put in place to stop taking new detainees via their ICE contract, it's meant a big change in the numbers of new individuals and therefore the numbers of new people needing representation. And so depending on what the sort of ongoing relationship between ICE and Essex continues to look like, that may influence the numbers of people we see in sort of this month and for however long the current health conditions and needs to be stringent about who enters the facility goes on. I think that certainly does not prevent us from representing people who are there. We've continued to take on new cases as sort of there's been a slow trickle of people entering, and then also of people who have been there and who have needed representation. So that's just one thing to keep in mind, but I think is outside of the control of anyone in this group, as I'm sure we would all stop COVID, could we? But that's just one additional thing. But I think the funding itself has been crucial, and in providing the representation we've been able to provide, and more funding would allow for more representation, but we're also thinking about and figuring out ways of expanding representation that are not directly linked to more dollars.
Thank you very much. Mr. President, I don't know if the others, if Rutgers or Legal Aid are coming on.
The Legal Services of New Jersey, do you want to add anything?
I'm sorry, yes, this is Rakiba again from Legal Services. Yeah, the funds from the county, absolutely, because they fund two full-time equivalent of attorneys, it basically means one additional attorney to take more cases, and there's always more cases to take. So it definitely has allowed us to increase our representation before the immigration court in Elizabeth. And, you know, we're obviously facing a different environment now with COVID, but, you know, I think, first of all, there are still, I think, 300 to 400 people in Essex, and not all are represented because there isn't enough money and resources at the moment for us to represent everyone. So there's always more work to do. And I know intakes are picking up, so we, you know, fully expect to be taking on new cases as the weeks progress. And on top of that, I mean, the work has to evolve with the situation. So now, especially in the last 4 months, we're dealing with not only the immigration removal case, but also release and medical condition and other things. So even though there might be, let's say, fewer new intakes that we had, at least in the past few months, we've been putting more resources into more work for the cases that we were doing. So there's always more work to be done, and that's why we appreciate the increase in the continued dedication and commitment of the county to allowing us to do this.
And this is Anju Gupta from Rutgers. So I will just echo everything that's been said. You know, I will say for, especially for Seton Hall and Rutgers in particular, you know, the other funding that we get from the state is about $186,000 at this point. So the money from Essex County has absolutely allowed us to increase our numbers. I would say more than double the numbers. And this year with, you know, hiring the fellow, I think almost triple our numbers that we could have handled without the Essex County funding. So, you know, I would say absolutely to the question of whether our numbers have been able to be increased. Yes, because, you know, under the state money, we were able to hire one full-time attorney, but it wasn't until we received the Essex County funding that we were able to increase to another senior detention attorney as well as a paralegal. And now we're hiring a post-grad fellow as well. So definitely this funding is really crucial in keeping up the numbers of, you know, representation and also just advice and counsel to all of the people that we're able to see.
Mr. President, if I could just comment on that, I think, listen, I don't need to reiterate what you heard, but I know this is now about 1 year that this program has been running. And before it started, I know it was the board's goal as well as the administration's goal, not simply to throw money at something and hope it works, but to really put in a framework of a program that would be impactful. And I think what I heard at least is that the funding that's being provided, it has certainly been impactful. It doesn't allow everybody to get full representation, but it certainly has done things. What I heard is allow them to triple their numbers in terms of amount of people represented. So I think that's something this board can be proud of, and something we could use as we build into the next year and the year after that. So I think it sounds like it's money well spent at this point.
Thank you, Ms. Belvecchio. I have a couple of questions and comments, but I'll open it up to the board first.
Hi, Mr. President. This is Freeholder Cooper. I have a couple of questions. Some things for clarity, because I don't know if my end was muffled that I didn't hear correctly. For each group mentioned, it sounds like an aggregate number of people that they service. For the Seton Hall folks, was I correct in hearing that it was 25 to 30 people? Was that per quarter or 25 to 30 for the entire year? It sounded like legal services sound like it was 80 to 90 people per year. And then the last group, Rutgers, sound like they said it was about 200 people that they physically conference with. Just a quick yes or no. Did I hear that number correctly, Mr. President? Do you want me to keep going?
If we could allow the providers to just give Freeholder a yes or no question, answer to those questions.
So this is Susanna Volpe from Seton Hall. No, our number is a quarterly number, so it's up to 30 people per quarter that we have met with and spoken with, and that's solely with our Essex money. It's not a cumulative total of individuals who we've been able to speak with, including those individuals who we've been able to speak with due to the New Jersey funding that Anju Gupta mentioned that we also receive.
Legal services?
So I gave the aggregate for all the people we see in detention. Since we have let me see, 6 attorneys and 1 supervisor total for our detention team, and the 2 attorneys funded by Essex are a third. It would be about a third. So pretty much, as Susanna said, it would be similar to our numbers, about 25 to 30 people seen each quarter, specifically through the Essex funded staff members.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, and this is Drew from Rutgers. So yeah, our numbers are very similar. It's about 30 people per quarter that we're seeing. And I think maybe part of the confusion, which I apologize for, is I was giving numbers for the whole project for the year, and also there's a difference between like how many people we're speaking to and giving advice and counsel to versus representing in the different whether it's full removal proceedings or in their bond proceedings or whatever. So the numbers vary by what kind of representation we're talking about. But otherwise, I think our numbers are all very similar.
Okay. My next point of clarity for the Rutgers University, how many people are dedicated to this project just for the Essex? I understand that you have money coming in from the state, but I heard 1 full-time lawyer, another full-time lawyer, and a paralegal. Am I correct? Did I miss anyone?
So right now, before, not including this increase that we hopefully are about to get from Essex County, we have a senior detention attorney, full-time, and a full-time paralegal. And then just a small percentage of, I think it was like around 10% or so of at the time of another attorney who was already in our office on a different project.
Okay. Then one of my next questions is for any one of you that can answer it is, you all talked about, I guess, having some kind of initial assessment with each detainee, but it sounds like there was a difference between the number of people you initially spoke with and then people that you actually represented. So I heard one group talked about the number of people that they got released, which was the Seton Hall talked about 3 people got released. Were legal services and Rutgers successful in getting anyone released?
So I can, for legal services, I can speak. Yes, I'm not sure if the word was release or relief, which is the common sort of term in immigration proceedings of a successful application. So I'll speak to both. But yes, we've been able to get people out on bond, people out on discretionary release due to COVID or other medical situations, and we've also been able to win substantive relief on the merits in the full immigration proceeding for people who are. I think I gave a few examples. There was one client who actually had a claim to U.S. citizenship and wasn't properly in removal proceedings to begin with. And we've had a couple of legal permanent residents who were in proceedings who we were able to get waivers for so they could retain their status and reunite with their families. And then also other sort of long-term residents, not necessarily legal permanent residents, but who have long, deeply held ties to the New Jersey community who, through their equities, and good moral character, were able to either be released or win a favorable exercise of discretion in their cases. So those are just some examples. There's also people who have fear-based claims as well, who are going to be persecuted or tortured in their home countries.
Okay. My last question would be, why would you not be able to represent someone, just out of curiosity?
It's basically, I mean, I can speak, sorry, I spoke first last time, but I mean, it's resources. We could probably give a whole day of our experiences on how things have gotten harder in immigration court and immigration proceedings for a lot of different reasons. And, you know, cases that might have taken, let's say, X amount of time and resources and had, you know, 90% level of success are now completely upended, where we're basically fighting for everything, and every bit of a case involves just, I mean, inordinate times more effort.
Okay.
I don't know how much detail you want me to go into here, but it's a lot more work. I mean, we're seeing bond numbers. Actually, one thing I could say so the freeholders can hear is that we've been seeing an increase in bond amount. So I would say a year to a year and a half ago, we'd see bond amounts set at 1,500, maybe up to 7,500 would be the normal range. These days, we are seeing bonds at 22,000 to 40,000, and those are for clients who have no criminal convictions. We're seeing judges deny bonds to people who have been here in this country for more than 10 years, who have 6 family members, who have not a single criminal conviction, and they're getting no bond from these judges. So it just makes the work harder, because before we'd be able to get someone bond, get them out, and move on to the next case. But now there's just much more fighting to be done. And so my frustration there is at the immigration judges in the system, not at anything else. But I'm sure you heard that in my voice, that it's become a very hard universe that we're in for our clients, for the detainees, and for the work that we do.
And Freeholder, this is Courtney Gassion, Essex County Council. I will just also add there are detainees that are represented by private counsel, which would preclude them from being represented by one of these 3 groups. Additionally, I do know that there are instances where immigration detainees decline to be represented. And I just do recall that having those discussions when we entered into this contract last year, as well as situations where after an initial consultation, there's a determination made that legal counsel may not actually be beneficial to the immigration detainee, because essentially the result of the case may be for a foregone conclusion, and that it may not be the best utilization of the resources by one of these 3 groups to take those types of cases. But there are different assessments that are made to determine whether or not a case is taken by one of these 3 groups. But certainly if they're represented by private counsel or they decline, those would be other instances where they would not be able to represent them.
Well,
Yeah, and there are
can I jump in?
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, yeah.
Sorry, this is Anju from Rutgers. I just want to jump in and say, you know, the reason for us why we can't take every case of every single person that we see is solely tied to capacity. And we take as many as we can, given the, you know, amount of, you know, man or woman power that we have. And we just can't take every single case, because there's just no way that we could represent all of them. So, you know, of course, if we increased our capacity or, you know, hired more attorneys, we would be able to take more cases. We don't actually turn down cases because we think that they would not be good cases for lawyers, because our feeling is that everyone could use a lawyer. So as Courtney mentioned, if someone comes in and they already have a lawyer, or if they decline our representation, those would be reasons why we would not take their cases. But otherwise, for us, we'd love to be able to take every case, but we simply can't. So we take as many cases as we possibly can for full representation, and we make sure that the others do get at least advice and counsel from us.
Yeah,
And
I
this
think that was a
is
great
Susanna from
answer.
Seton
Oh,
Hall.
sorry.
Sorry. Go ahead, Ricky.
Sorry, I'm talking a lot. I'm talking a lot. I'm sorry. I always talk.
No.
I was going to add to Andrew's point really quickly, and then I'll turn it over to you, Susanna. That it's exactly right. That for the people who we can't extend representation to, who otherwise would want it, aside from the people who turn us down, of course, which is a small number, we do certainly try to give as extensive assistance as possible. And it's not necessarily, just quote unquote an advice session. It can extend beyond that. We're calling family members. We're trying to help. We're helping to obtain documents. We're connecting with public defenders so people can resolve any pending charges. We're getting country conditions evidence so they can at least try to fight their case or assess their case and see with them and see, what their chances are and what their options are. So there's certainly a lot work underneath the full representation level that I think is hopefully helping people who are in this situation who otherwise don't have representation, but not quite at the ideal level of having an attorney. So sorry, Susanna, go ahead.
No, that's I would just sort of echo everything that's been said by my colleagues, by Rakiba and Anju, that we also, Seton Hall also sort of tries to adhere to the universal representation model. So everybody who is unrepresented, who desires to have a lawyer who we meet with, we take on their case if we have capacity to do so. And again, sort of the reason we might turn down a case would have to do with capacity. But just sort of in that vein, because we adhere to that model and because, like what Rakiba said, every step of the case is contested at this point in time, we have cases where we have a case right now where we took on the case last July as we got the funding, and we are still working on that case. And so just to sort of give an example of how these cases are just very time and labor intensive, because we are there every step of the way and we're fighting at every hearing, and then we are appealing when we need to appeal and appealing the sort of interim decisions also as they come up. And just because of that, that's sort of some of the reason why our resources, why these cases are so resource intensive and why we can't unfortunately represent every single person we meet. But for those who we do meet, who we have the capacity to represent, we take on their case and we take it on to the fullest.
Thank you. Freeholder Cooper, was that? Okay, thank you. Freeholder, additional questions or comments?
Through you, Mr. President, Freeholder Richardson, just a quick comment. So this grant money that we've been able to secure for these legal services are really essential. What I'm hearing is that the people who are being represented at this time would not have representation if it were not for this funding that we were able to secure and get to Rutgers, Seton Hall, and Legal Services. So I think, and then with the raise amount this year, it is fantastic in my opinion. And hopefully next year they can build more capacity and give them more money. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Vice President Richardson. Freeholder's additional questions or comments? So just probably more of a comment and perhaps a little bit of a question if any of the providers want to respond. So as Vice President Richardson mentioned, this is something that I think the board should be proud of. It's an initiative that we advanced over a year ago to secure funds in our budget for what we hope would be universal representation for the immigration detainees that are held in our facility. We are thrilled. I'm thrilled to see the increase, and I only expect that this program will continue to be funded at even greater levels if it's needed. I know we have disagreement, among the board members, about our contract with ICE, but as long as we currently have a contract with ICE, there's no question in my mind that we should be spending money that comes from that contract to make sure that we are providing universal representation to anyone who needs it that's detained in our facility. One thing I just want to make sure, and we're close to $1 million with this allotment that we're giving directly today. We started last year with $750,000 that was prorated for the year because we didn't get to it until March of that calendar year. And, to put that in perspective, the entire program for legal services and, within the state budget for this area was probably in the $2 or $2.5 million range. So this is a big step by the County of Essex, almost half. We're funding almost half at a level of half of what the state does. I think it's the right thing. I think we should be doing it. And we didn't start at this number, so we don't have to go into how the sausage got made, so to speak. But I'm glad we've arrived at this number in where this number should be, and I think the number should only continue to increase. One thing I want to make sure of through you, Mr. Jackson, and for Courtney and for our providers is that I'm hoping, and I don't want our providers, since we are breaking this up into 3 different contracts or grants, excuse me, I'm hoping that there's a lot of communication so we're not operating in silos. I want to make sure that, since we're putting $900,000 into this program, that the 3 providers are communicating with one another. So we're making sure that that money is going as far as possible, and we're not duplicating services, or if one provider has a stronger strength in one area versus the other. I want to really make sure that we have as much communication as possible, and make sure that the providers know, and I thank them, for bringing a level of professionalism to the program, but make sure that the providers are communicating with one another, so that, again, they're maximizing our goal of bringing, this universal representation, and then also helping deal with the issue of capacity. So I know that goes into a level of detail about someone who asked for representation versus just consultation, and how we're looking at that. But and I know you could always use more, but I would really like, as this program continues in our evaluation, to also come back, now that we've been doing it for a little bit of time, to evaluate what our average numbers are and what the providers would need in order to provide that capacity. So I want to make sure that that is never an issue. And with with a $40 million plus revenue coming into the county through this contract, we should not have a problem with being able to make sure that our legal aid providers are able to hit capacity. So I really want to be kept up to speed on what that means, what that looks like, what that number would look like, and that we are maximizing the dollars that we're spending on this program.
So this is Anju from Rutgers, and I can address some of that. So first of all, the state funding right now is at $3.1 million, and yeah. So then with the Essex funding, we're at about $4 million total. And
the 3.1 was from last year's state budget, or from the year? Is that proposed, or from last? And the year before that, and what was the funding the year before that?
Year was 2.1 million, and this past year was 3.1 million.
Yeah, so I just want to put that again in perspective for those who are, for people who may be watching this meeting, to show as a data point for the county's commitment to this. So the state itself, the entire state's putting in 2.1, and the county put in 750, and now we're putting in 900,000.
Yeah, and just in terms of universal representation, I think various sort of models have calculated that it would take about 15 to 16 million total for us to be able to represent every single person detained in the state of New Jersey. So that's not just Essex County also, but in the state of New Jersey, for everyone to get representation. That's the total that it would take. And to your other point about
I'd love to know what that number is for. I'd love to know what that number is for as we move forward for Essex. And again, not expecting to produce that number today, but as we move forward, would love to have communicated back to the board what that number would be for, what you roughly think that number would be for Essex County.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sure that we can get that to you really quickly. And then just in terms of your other point about communication among the providers, we are, just to reassure you all, we are in constant communication. Basically, we are, using both the state and the Essex County funding. We've set up, one project called DDDI, the Detention and Deportation Defense Initiative, and we have a rotation among the providers for intakes, for example. We also have, an email list of all the attorneys who are working on this project so that they can, obviously without violating confidentiality or anything, but they can share sample motions or ask questions about, if anyone's experienced XYZ. Also, we all kind of get calls from family members and things like that asking for representation for people who are in detention. So we're able to communicate with each other to make sure, when we get a call, we can check and see if anyone has done an intake with that individual and then refer the family members to the appropriate organization. So yes, we are in constant communication and constant contact and making sure that everything is coordinated.
Thank you.
And this is Susanna from Seton Hall. Just to follow up on that, so I echo and agree with everything that Andrew has said, but just to sort of, as an example of our constant contact, I think what is extraordinary about what this funding has allowed to happen is that based on the collaboration between the legal service providers, what this means is that since this funding started, every single new entrant to Essex County Corrections Facility so every single new ICE entrant has met with an attorney. And so granted, we haven't been able to represent everyone for the reasons that we just provided, based on capacity, based on some people being represented, based on people declining representation, but every individual has met an attorney, which is hugely different and which is a huge sort of a testament to the work and initiative of the board in making sure that people have access to justice, and to the providers and our collaboration and ability to work so well together that we've been able to ensure that.
Great, thank you. Freeholders, additional questions or comments? That's great to hear, and I really appreciate that answer. And again, thank you for the work that you're doing. For those who are on the phone that we can't see today, but thank you so much for taking the time and for the work that you're doing each and every day on behalf not only of your clients, but for the county as well. So thank you so much. Freeholders, I have a motion from Freeholder Johnson and a second from Freeholder Luciano to take resolutions 2 through 4 as one. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Cooper. Freeholder Cooper.
Yes.
Freeholder Graham. Freeholder Graham.
Yes.
Freeholder Johnson.
Yes.
Freeholder Luciano.
Yes.
Freeholder Mercado, absent. Freeholder Pomares.
Yes.
Freeholder Vice President Richardson.
Yes.
Freeholder Siebel.
Yes.
Freeholder President Gill.
Yes.
So moved.
Okay, thank you, Madam Clerk. Let's move to resolutions 5 and 6, which are from the Department of Citizen Service, Division of Family Assistance and Benefits. Mr. Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Item 5 is a contract with Gummis Design Group to provide for and install custom cubicle signs at 320, 321 University Avenue. Approximately 1,000 signs at $38 per sign. This was a bid, and 4 bids were received, and this was the lowest and responsible bidder. Item 6 is an agreement with Hudson Community Enterprises, which is a shelter workshop to provide for storage and maintenance of some files for the Division of Family and Benefits. It's going to inventory about 6,600 boxes plus access to those boxes electronically. And the estimate is about 4,300 hours of work at $20.52 per hour for a total of $88,236.
Very good. Okay, Mr. Parlecchio?
No questions.
Mr. McInerney? Freeholders, do you have any questions or comments? Okay, hearing or seeing none, I have a motion from Freeholder Luciano and a second from Freeholder Palmaris to take 5 and 6 as one. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Siebel,
Yes.
Freeholder Vice President Richardson,
Yes.
You check it right now.
Freeholder Pomares,
Right, but for
Yes.
Freeholder Ricardo, absent, Freeholder Luciano.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Freeholder Johnson,
Yes.
Freeholder Graham,
Yes.
Freeholder Cooper,
Yes.
Freeholder President Gill,
Yes.
did I call you Freeholder Siebel?
Yes, you did.
Okay, so moved.
Okay. Madam Clerk, let's move to resolutions number 7 through 9, which are from the Division of Community Action. We can read them into the record at a later time. Mr. Jackson.
Mr. President, I'm going to handle number 7, which is agreement, an amendment to an agreement with this in the search of revenue from the City of Newark for the HOPWA program, housing opportunities for persons with AIDS. This is an additional $50,000 on top of the amount before, which is $500,000 that was approved in late 2019 and early 2020, for a new total of $550,000, and there's no match on the county's part for that. And for items 8 and 9, Mr. Woods is here to address those 2 items. Mr. Woods, you're on.
All right, thank you. Hello, Freeholder President Gill and other freeholders. The first item is from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development Coordinated Entry Program. Again, for the record, this is Michael Woods from Community Action. That's in the amount of $400,000 for our Coordinated Entry Program. That is a new award from an application that we put in every single year. It's to do an assessment and overall staffing increase in order to better serve our homeless population. It's going to be maintained inside of our office, and those hirings will be done as soon as we can get this approved. The next item is for our Continuum of Care annual admin. So this is the dollars that goes into running our Project Homeless Connect Day, running our various events, supplies, staff hours for the Division of Community Action. So this is the dollars that goes into running our Project Homeless Connect.
Somebody's watching it on Facebook.
That's all I have for the overall, but if anybody has any questions, I will answer them.
Parlecchio?
I don't have any questions.
Was that I just want to make sure 7, 8, that we just covered 8 and
and 9.
And
7, 8, and 9.
So Mr. Woods was speaking to all three of those in his,
No, actually, I covered number 7, Mr. President.
okay. So that was 8 and 9? Or just
Yes.
8? Okay,
He did 8 and 9.
okay, thank you. Mr. McInerney,
I don't have any questions.
Freeholders, additional questions or comments? Okay, I have a motion from Freeholder Palmaris and a second from Vice President Richardson for 7 through 9. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Sewell.
Yes.
Freeholder Vice President Richardson.
Yes.
Freeholder Palmares.
Yes.
Freeholder Mercado absent. Freeholder Luciano.
Yes. Yes.
Freeholder Johnson.
Yes.
Freeholder Graham.
Yes.
Freeholder Cooper.
Yes.
Freeholder President Gill.
Yes.
So moved.
Okay, thank you, Madam Clerk. Let's move to resolutions number 10 and 11, which will be read into the record at a later time. Mr. Jackson.
Yes, Mr. President. Mr. Vieira is here to address item number 10, and Mr. Smith is here to address item number 11. Mr. Vieira, you're on.
Thank you, Freeholder President, Honorable Freeholders. This is Michael Vieira, V-I-E-I-R-A. I'm the Director of Special Transportation Services for both the Division of Training and Employment and the Division of Senior Services. Today's hat is the Division of Social Services. This decision memo is for the purchase of 10 buses for our Essex County Community Transportation Program. Earlier in the year, there was a bond through the county executive, which the Freeholder Board approved for $750,000. And I also had a grant from the Community Development Block Grant for an additional $79,200. With this money, we are purchasing, or would like to purchase, 10 vehicles. There are 3 different sizes, but it is for the senior and disabled population in Essex County for the Essex County Community Transportation Program. If you do have any questions regarding the individual buses, Matt Fatante from Aurora Bus Sales, who was the low bidder, is also on the call, or should be on the call. Matt, are you on the call?
Yes, I am on the call. Good afternoon, everybody.
Freeholder President, is there any questions for Mr. Fatante?
Is there anything he would like to add?
Matt, is there anything that you want to add? Maybe how long the vehicles will take to come in?
Yes, with COVID-19, we did see some plant closures, mostly on the OEM side. Ford, which these vehicles are built on, the Ford chassis, were closed for approximately 2 months. They're now reopened, and as of now, we do not see any more closures in the near future. Without any closures, we're looking at approximately 4 months to build these 10 buses. And if there's any closures, it could cause delays, but again, it just depends on plant closures. Our bus factory that produces the bus body on these chassis did not close at all. They did limit the workforce. Production went from 25 buses a week down to approximately 10 buses a week, which did increase those times to about 5 months for production instead of 4 months. But we don't anticipate any delays at this time.
Thank you, Matt. And Freeholder President, just to let you know, what's different about these buses this time around is we did spec in plexiglass shields for the drivers as an answer to the virus. That's all I have, Freeholder.
I'm sorry, I was muted. Okay, thank you. Mr. Parlavecchio?
No questions on that.
Mr. McInerney?
No questions.
Freeholders? Okay, Freeholders, I have a motion from Vice President Richardson and a second from Freeholder Siebel to take resolutions 10 and 11 as one. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder
Just
Cooper.
Mr. President, just as a note, we did not cover item 11.
Yeah.
Michael just did number 10.
Oh, I'll-
Yes.
Mr. Smith is going to do number 11.
let's do number 11 then. Thank you.
Eric? There?
Okay. Good afternoon, Mr. President, Honorable Freeholder Board. My name is Eric Smith, and I'm with the Essex County Division of Senior Services. And item 11 is a budget insertion of $2,006,944. Now, the Essex County Division of Senior Services has been awarded a supplemental award from the Department of Human Services Division on Aging Services. The Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act, CARES Act, provides funds under Title 3B for supportive services, Title C2 for home delivered meals, and Title 3E for National Family Caregiver Support services. And if you have any questions, I'm free to answer.
Thank you. Freeholders, additional questions?
Freeholder President, this is Freeholder Cooper. Just a point of clarity. The attached recommendation memo reference of $4.8 million, is that saying that we previously approved that earlier this year and that this is an additional $2 million?
Yes, this is an additional, I'm sorry, I have questions. I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead, Eric.
Yes, it is an additional $2 million under the CARES Act.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Mr. Parlavecchio?
No questions.
Mr. McInerney?
Mr. President, I did request the sub-grantees on this because this is part of the schedule that the board is maintaining of the CARES Act and any COVID money that's coming to the county or being dispersed by the county. So there's a schedule which I've released just this afternoon to the clerk of the board, kind of details not only the extent of the $139 million the county received with regard to expenditures of that, but also the grants that we're receiving from the federal and state government and where those funds are going. So that's all outlined on that form and be ready for distribution to the Freeholder Board.
Great.
And that includes where this $2 million was allocated to, the organizations who received it and for what services.
Excellent. I haven't had a chance to see it yet, but I look forward to reviewing that. Thank you.
Mr. President, this is Freeholder Cooper again.
Freeholder.
What's the plan for this additional $2 million of funding, Mr. McInerney or either Mr. Jackson? How are we using it? Is it already allocated to organizations? Are we extending like current contracts that we have in place?
Mr. Smith, go right ahead.
Okay. Well, what we're doing as of right now, my director, Director Marie Brown, and the planning staff have been going over with the planning of the $2 million. And what it's going for is actually for like the 3B services. Those include certified home health aid, transportation, legal services, visiting nurse services. And under the Title C2, that's mainly home delivered meals. And that will be between the 3 contracted agencies nutrition providers that we have. And the CARES Act for the Title 3E will cover mental health counseling, certified health aides, and again, more legal services. Those are the providers that we have under those 3 grants.
Mr. President, Freeholders, when you get that schedule, you'll see this grant inserted in there, and you'll see exactly what sub-grant, what organization got what. and for what. So it's there in detail.
Okay. Freeholders, additional questions or comments? Okay, Freeholders have a motion from Vice President Richardson and Freeholder Siebold to take resolutions 10 and 11 as one. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Cooper,
Yes.
Freeholder Graham,
Yes.
Freeholder Johnson,
Yes.
Freeholder Luciano,
Yes.
Freeholder Mercado, absent. Freeholder Pomares,
Yes.
Freeholder Vice President Richardson,
Yes.
Freeholder Siebold,
Yes.
Freeholder President Gill.
Yes.
So moved.
Okay, moving to resolutions 12 and 13, which are from the hospital center. We can read them into the record at a later time. Mr. Jackson.
Mr. President, Mr. Del Gaudio is here to address these. The first one is an agreement with Seton Hall University for nursing, and the second one is a county budget insertion that he will go through. Mr. Del Gaudio.
So good afternoon, Freeholder Board. This is Frank Del Gaudio, Director of Health and Rehab, Director of the Hospital Center. The first resolution is it's a renewal of the affiliation agreement with Seton Hall University School of Nursing. Things are changing with COVID, but typically what happens is each semester they bring in a group of nursing students to get their psychiatric rotation, which is part of their curriculum and needed for graduation. So we've done outreach to the university, and we're coming up with a plan how we can distance the number of students they bring here at the hospital. So that's still in progress. But it's been a great relationship. They've provided great additional people in the building to service our clients. Not so sure that's a great idea in COVID, but we're working through those issues.
And just move on to 13.
Resolution 13 is it's a CARES Act award to the hospital center specific. This is in addition to the county CARES Act funding. The plan for this funding is to offset our revenue loss. The federal government permits that for hospitals and healthcare providers that were affected by COVID. They understand, we're not taking admissions for the last 3 months, and it put a real hurt on our revenue stream. So all of this money is going to be dedicated to the revenue loss. So what we need to do is wait a few months to calculate what that exactly is, and then we will put in the claim for that.
Okay. McInerney.
Again, this is on the schedule that I presented to the board this afternoon, just as an item that includes, the funding for COVID-19.
Mr. Paladecchio.
No questions.
Freeholders, additional questions or comments? Okay, I have a motion from Freeholder Siebold and a second from Freeholder Cooper. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Siebold,
Yes.
Freeholder Vice President Richardson,
Yes.
Freeholder Pomares,
Yes.
Freeholder Mercado, absent. Freeholder Luciano,
Yes.
Freeholder Johnson,
Yes.
Freeholder Graham, Freeholder Graham,
Yes. Yes.
Freeholder Cooper,
Yes.
Freeholder President Gill.
Yes.
So moved.
Moving to resolutions 14 and 15, which we can read into the record at a later time. Mr. Jackson.
Mr. President, item 14 is an agreement with the Township of Nutley to provide for hazardous material emergency response team in an amount not to exceed $157,500. They provide 24-hour response capability 7 days a week, and the funding sources are a grant of $60,000, the trust of $7,500, and operating funds of $90,000. The fund money, the trust money, I should say, is generated because we received 40% of any hazmat collected charges from the previous year, and that amount was $77,489.98 for the previous year. So we're using $7,500 of that for this going forward. And just as a note, this is actually somewhat of a retroactive contract from 7/1/19 to 6/30/20 because the state was late in providing these agreements and contracts. And we'll be doing the one for this coming shortly as the state gets caught up on providing these agreements. Item 15 is similar to item 14. It's a uniform shared services agreement with Essex Regional Health Commission. And under the same sort of circumstances, under the amount of $218,000. This agreement is in accordance with NJDEP to enforce monitoring, inspecting, and tracking pollution and imposing fines on offenders. They've been providing this service since 1995. And again, this is going to be funded by operating dollars of $107,717 and grant funding of a little over $110,000.
Okay. Mr. Parlecchio.
I don't have any other questions.
Okay. Mr. McInerney.
No questions.
Freeholders, questions or comments? We have a motion from Freeholder Cooper and a second from Freeholder Graham. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Cooper.
Yes.
Freeholder Graham.
Yes.
Freeholder Johnson.
Yes.
Freeholder Luciano.
Yes.
Freeholder Mercado absent. Freeholder Pomares.
Yes.
Freeholder Vice President Richardson.
Yes.
Freeholder Sebo.
Yes.
Freeholder President Gill.
Yes.
So moved.
Okay, thank you. Moving to resolutions number 16 through 19. Read them into the record at a later time. Mr. Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Item 16 is a contract award to two vendors to provide for various bulk materials and turf products for our golf courses and also for other county open spaces. This is an open-ended as needed contract, an amount not to exceed $70,000. As you may recall, the board approved 5 vendors for contracts back in May. These are the 10 items that were not part of that contract, so we went out to bid for these. No one bid on those, actually, so we're going out for bid on these, and this is an award for those 10 items. Item 17 is an agreement with Hudson Community Enterprises, again, a shelter workshop. As you know, given the amount of the intense use of our county facilities as a result of folks being isolated for so long, the use of our facilities has been tremendous. And under normal circumstances, what we would do is have our second chance gentlemen and ladies, gentlemen from our correctional facility come out and help out with this effort. As a result of that not being possible because of the COVID issues, we're going to use Hudson Community Enterprises to come out and provide for that service at a rate of $19.25 an hour at approximately 750 hours per week. This includes labor only, supplies, and other cleaning products that will be provided by the county. Item 18 is a contract with McCluskey Mechanical Contractors. This is a 20% change order. We've had a number of large repairs at Cody Arena, Francis Byrne Golf Course, and Kipps Castle. and due to that, we have an additional cost incurred. The original contract was $328,700. This is a 20% change order, and which makes the new amount $394,400. And this contract expires in November, end of November 2020. Item 19 is also a 20% change order to provide for fruit and produce for animals at the Turtleback Zoo. The contract expires in the end of December 2020. The original contract was $95,000. This is a 20% increase of $19,000, increasing the contract to $114,000. This contract was due to a number of increase in the number of animals, but also as the animals that we brought in earlier mature, their appetites increase, and as a result of this, we're going to be going out again for a new bid at the end of the summer, and that covers those items.
Great, thank you. Mr. Parlavecchio?
I don't have any questions, Mr. President.
Mr. McInerney?
No questions, Mr. President.
Freeholders? Questions on 16 through 19? Okay, seeing none, I have a motion from Freeholder Branham and a second from Freeholder Johnson to take resolutions 16 through 19 as one. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Sewell.
Yes.
Freeholder Vice President Richardson.
Yes.
Freeholder Pomares.
Yes.
Freeholder Mercado absent. Freeholder Luciano.
Yes.
Freeholder Johnson.
Yes.
Freeholder Graham.
Yes.
Freeholder Cooper.
Yes.
Freeholder President Gill.
Yes.
So moved.
Thank you. Moving to resolutions 20 through 26, which we can read into the, yes.
I just want to, through you, Mr. President, I just want to remind people that when you're having side conversations, we can hear them. So just make sure you mute your mic.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Moving to resolutions 20 through 26, which we can read into the record at a later time. Department of Public Works, Mr. Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I note at the top that our county engineer, Mr. Barhes, is here on the line, as well as the vendors for the larger contracts are here to talk. I'm just going to run through them quickly, and those gentlemen will be able to answer questions that you may have. Item 20 is a contract award to ReadyCare to provide for emergency medical first aid products and equipment to the Department of Public Works, specifically the rental of 2 AEDs, and an amount not to exceed $24,056. Item 21 is and a contract award to Colonial Energy to provide for our energy products and gas products for a 3-year agreement. This agreement is approximately half of what we have for the previous agreement, so that's a result of some substantial savings for us going forward. And that contract is with Colonial Energy for a contract ending October 31st, 2023, an amount not to exceed $9 million. Item 22 is a contract with award to Foggia Trinity Electric Company, an amount not to exceed $205,000 to provide for intersection rehabilitations at various county locations throughout the year. Open-ended as needed contract. This is for repairs and rehabilitation of intersections due to accidents or weather damage, and they were the sole bidder for that item. Item 23 is an agreement with KS Engineers to provide for inspection services for our 2020 roadway program in an amount not to exceed $354,384. This is an RFP, publicly advertised, a fair and open process. 12 firms submitted proposals, and KS Engineering was the prevailing vendor. And item 24 is an agreement with Smith Sondy to provide for the roadway resurfacing program for $8,478,080.80. This is grant funding through the New Jersey Transportation Trust Fund. Let's see. Item 25 is a Department of Public Works. It's an agreement with a change order with Remington and Vernick Engineers for the design of the Watsessing Park, adding 2 new handicapped accessible pieces of apparatus, and some bid management, as well as some bathroom hoist in the community building. For that contract, that's a 19.4% change order. And finally, item 26 is an insertion of revenue for the Department of Public Works for a Clean Communities grant, which we use for our county roadways for picking up debris and litter along county roadways. And did I catch everyone? I think I did. Yeah. And again, Director Varghese, County Engineer Varghese is here, as well as vendors from KS, as well as Smith Sondy.
Hi, this is Sanjeev Varghese, the county engineer. I am ready to answer any questions you have on these items.
Do we have any of the vendors that we want to hear from?
This is Kamal.
Sunday's on the phone.
Joe Smith from Smith Sondy.
President of KS Engineers.
Joe Smith, could you start with your project?
Yes. We're fortunate enough to be the low bidder on the project for.
Through you, Mr. President. Name and business for the record, please.
Okay, my name is Joseph C. Smith. I am the president of Smith Sondy Asphalt Construction Company, located in Wallington, New Jersey. We were the low bidder on the 2020 road program, the road resurfacing program. We're, as soon as the award is, I would hope that they would have a, I believe, county engineer is ready to have a pre-construction meeting and would like to start this project. Due to the lateness, would like to try to start it as soon as possible to try to get it completed before year's end, weather permitting. We have a large contingent.
And you're going to talk about your union shop, Joe?
Right. We are 100% union shop, representing 825, 472 laborers and 560 Teamsters. And we have a large group of men that come from Essex County that work for us. Our workforce is probably about 50% minority workers. That's about all I have to say there.
Kamal, KS Engineers, Kamal, you want to speak?
Sure. Thank you, Sanjeev. Good afternoon again. This is Kamal Shahid. I am president of KS Engineers. We have our company is a 100% minority-owned company. We have been in business since 1991. Since 1994, Newark, New Jersey, and Essex County has been our home. We have been in Newark, and we just signed our new lease with an office building right here in Newark for another 12 years. So we are here to stay, and we're very fortunate to be the selected engineering company for this project to provide construction inspection services for 2020 roadway resurfacing program. And we, as Joe said, we are also very anxious to get started. And I believe there's about 25 roadways, Sanjeev, if I'm not wrong, that are going to be covered under this project. And also just to add, KS Engineers comprises close to 60% people from various minority and women, minority ethnic background, and also we employ a lot of women engineers and inspectors. A big part of our hires, new hires and existing employees are coming from City of Newark and neighboring towns in Essex County.
Any other vendors?
That's all we have. President.
Thank you. Mr. Parlavecchio?
Yes, Mr. President, I did have two questions. On number 21, that's the award to Colonial Energy. Mr. Jackson, you said this was a big reduction from last year. Is this a new vendor, or is this a market change? Is there some other reason it's such a substantial reduction from last year's cost?
I will defer to Mr. Varghese to answer that question.
Yeah, this is Sanjeev Varghese, the county engineer. This is a new vendor we have. Last 2 years we have Direct Energy. This year the rate is 0.63 per decatherm, which is probably half the rate of last year. There is big competition in the field. Direct Energy did not bid this job. There was only one bidder, and Colonial is the lowest bidder.
Mr. President? Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Parlavecchio, I didn't mean to.
No, that answered that question. Thanks.
Mr. President?
Yes.
I did speak to the county engineer about this contract. Just to confirm that this $9 million is not just the upcharge, which is the, explain to me the distribution and the profit of the natural gas, but it is also the cost of the natural gas. Is that correct?
Yes.
So it's the cost of the natural gas and the distribution of the natural gas. The natural gas, was it the mercantile exchange that you, I know it's a futures market that we buy at our price? Is that done on an annual basis?
We just wait for the lowest price. Typically it's in October, and we lock it for 12 months, the next 12 months. That's the NYMEX.
Okay, so this is on the commodities exchange where we lock in a fixed amount that we're going to pay for a decatherm of natural gas. This way we know how much to budget for the year, and we won't pay anything more than that. The market may go down, but we'll be still paying that. It may go up, but we'll be still paying that locked in rate.
That's correct. And I gave you the market rates for the last 10 years. And typically in October, that's the lowest rate we get, and we lock in for that rate.
Okay. I just wanted to clarify that this just wasn't the upcharge. This was also the cost of natural gas to the county. Thank you.
Correct.
Okay. Freeholders, additional questions or comments?
Freeholder President, Freeholder Cooper.
Thank you. Freeholder Cooper.
So, thank you, Mr. President. So, Mr. McInerney, when I'm reading the recommendation memo, under the history where it talks about from 2017 to 2020, they only expended $4.3 million. So, how much was budgeted for during that time period? Do you know? Like, because when I look just on the face of the numbers, I'm like, you're asking for $9 million, but the previous amount, you only expended 4.3. Are you saying that the numbers can go higher than what is being asked?
No, what the county does is it actually buys a contract, a futures contract, that says this is what we'll pay for our natural gas, for whatever unit. I think it's a decatherm. This is the locked price. So let's just say it's $1. If the price goes to 50 cents, we're still going to pay $1. If the price goes to $3, we're still going to pay $1. We're using a future contract so we know exactly what we're going to pay and we don't get beat up by the market. The reason we have to do that is we wouldn't know how much to budget unless we knew how much we were going to pay for. We can estimate the usage because that's based on prior years. So we take that usage and we multiply it times our locked in per decament per cost bought on the futures exchange, and that gives us our number that we can be secure. We won't overexpend.
All right, so then the $9 million is reflected based upon what you just described, an estimate based upon past usage and current rate.
Correct.
Or proposed rate. And we can only lock this in for 2 years? We couldn't lock it in for longer? Or is it not worth it based upon past history in the market?
I don't know what, I think it's a calendar. I'm not sure if it's a calendar year locked in. I can't answer that question. I have to defer back to the information. But I think we do lock in for a year for
This is Sanjeev Varghese, County Engineer. We lock in for 12 months from the date of locking it. Usually we lock it in October. That's for the next 12 months.
Water valve boxes, you've been at 30, everything else you're okay, right?
So it's only locked in. So then, Mr. McInerney, why is the time, if it's only 12 months, why is the time between 2020 to 2023?
I'm sorry, Freeholder people. We still have people not on mute. Please, if you're not engaged, put your phone on, your device on mute.
We'll go back out in the following 12 months to lock in the rate again. But the decatherm rate, that's half the cost of what it was in prior contracts, I believe stays solid, stays the same as for the period. Don't forget, there's two costs here. One is the cost to distribute the natural gas, and the other one is the cost to acquire natural gas. I would just ask the county engineer to, affirm that we will have to go back out to the market within this contract period.
Again, this is
Thank you.
Sanjeev Varghese, the County Engineer. The contract is for the upcharge, which is 0.63 per decatherm. That is for 3 years. The commodity price will change every year, which is what we locking in for 12 months in October.
But again, Sanjeev, this $9 million covers both the upcharge and the cost of natural gas.
Yes, this $9 million is the maximum which we'll ever expend. We usually expend much less than that. This is the upper limit for not to exceed.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Freeholder, additional questions or comments? Okay, we can move to resolution, I'm sorry. We're on resolution 20 through 26. We have a motion from Freeholder Johnson and a second from Freeholder Luciano. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Cooper,
Yes.
Freeholder Graham,
Yes.
Freeholder Johnson,
Yes.
Freeholder Luciano,
Yes.
Freeholder Mercado, absent Freeholder Pomares,
Yes.
Freeholder Vice President Richardson,
Yes.
Freeholder Siebel,
Yes.
Freeholder President Gill.
Yes.
So moved.
Thank you. Moving to resolutions 27, 28, and number 50, which we can read into the record at a later time. Mr. Jackson.
Okay, thank you, Mr. President. Item 27 is a budget insertion of $5,500 for the click it or ticket operation by the Office of the Sheriff. No county match. And item 28 is a pedestrian and safety enforcement grant in the amount, another budget insertion in the amount of $50,000. And again, no county match. Item 50 is a contract through the Bergen County Cooperative Purchasing Agreement in an amount not to exceed $343,248 to purchase 12 new X-ray machines for the Hall of Records and Veterans Courthouse Complex. The 12 existing X-ray machines are nearing their end of useful life. And this is, again, for 12 of those new scanning machines.
Okay. Can we do 28 and 50?
Yes, we did 27, 28, and 50.
Okay, that included all three. Thank you.
Yes.
Mr. Parlavecchio.
No questions.
Mr. McInerney.
No questions.
Freeholders. (27, 28, and 50). Okay, seeing none, I have a motion from Freeholder Luciano and a second from Freeholder Pomares. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Siebel,
Yes.
Freeholder Vice President Richardson,
Yes.
Freeholder Pomares,
Yes.
Freeholder Mercado, absent Freeholder Luciano,
Yes.
Freeholder Johnson,
Yes.
Freeholder Graham,
Yes.
Freeholder Cooper,
Question, this is 26, 27, 28, and 50?
Yes.
no.
No, 27,
27, 28, and 50.
Yes.
Freeholder President Gill,
Yes.
so moved.
Okay, moving to resolution number 29 through 35, which is the Office of County Administrator. We can read it into the record at a later time. Mr. Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Tim Walker, our Director of Risk Management, is here, as well as Edward Cooney and Alex DeLucia from Counter Strong to address these items.
Good afternoon, President Gill and the Freeholder Board. This is Tim Walker, Director of Risk Management for the county. The first resolution we'd like to discuss is resolution number 29, which is the renewal of the county's property insurance program, which is an annual program. We are recommending the renewal with our incumbent carrier, FM Global, or excuse me, AFM, Affiliated FM. It is at an increase of a 74% increase over the previous year's renewal. It is due mainly to a very tight property market currently, as well as the county's previous 2 years of losses. At this point, we felt that the best opportunity for the county that offered the best terms and coverages was the incumbent carrier.
With that increase, the total amount of the premium is $1,258,431. Are there any questions?
Okay.
Okay. No questions on 29?
No questions on 29, but why don't we just move through these one at a time? So Mr. Parlavecchio on 29.
I don't have any additional questions on this
Mr. McInerney,
No questions.
freeholders, okay, I have a motion from freeholder Luciano and a second from freeholder Pomaris. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Cooper. Freeholder Cooper.
President not voting.
Freeholder Graham. Freeholder Graham.
Yes.
Freeholder Johnson.
Yes.
Freeholder Johnson.
Yes.
Freeholder Luciano.
Yes.
Freeholder Mercado, absent. Freeholder Pomares.
Yes.
Freeholder Vice President Richardson.
Yes.
Freeholder Siebel. Freeholder President Gill.
Yes.
So moved.
Okay, moving to number 30.
Okay, number 30, we are requesting authorization for the renewal of the county's excess general liability, excess auto liability, and excess law enforcement liability policy. That is also with the incumbent carrier Brit Lloyd's of London. It is an annual premium of $991,000, which represents an 86% increase over last year's premium. It was, we felt, the best option for the county in terms of coverage, in terms of the claim team that supports that policy, as well as the financial strength of the company. Are there questions for this one?
Mr. Parlavecchio,
No questions.
Mr. McInerney,
No questions.
freeholders, questions or comments on number 30? Okay, I have a motion from freeholder Pomaris and a second from Vice President Richardson. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Siebel.
Yes. Yes.
Freeholder Vice President Richardson.
Yes.
Freeholder Pomares.
Yes.
Freeholder Mercado is absent. Freeholder Luciano.
Yes.
Freeholder Johnson. Freeholder Johnson.
Yes.
Freeholder Graham.
Yes.
Freeholder Cooper.
Yes.
Freeholder President Gill.
Yes.
So moved.
Resolution 31.
We seek renewal or authorization for renewal of the county's workers' compensation insurance program with our incumbent carrier, Arch Insurance Company. It is for an annual premium of $368,017, which actually represent a 3% decrease over last year's premium. We are open to questions.
Mr. Parlavecchio,
Yeah, quick question. Mr. Walker, this is one of the few, if not the only, decreases. How did that happen compared to the other significant increases?
Sure, good. Excellent question. A couple of factors came into play. One, we did a very good job this past year of managing our existing claims and reducing the number of incoming claims that we had over previous years. In addition, the county has a $1 million self-insured retention or deductible. So we did not require the excess carrier to make payments on any of our claims. That all tied together allowed us to have a reduction in our premium.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Mr. Mack?
No questions.
Okay. Freeholders, additional questions or comments? Okay, I have a motion from Freeholder Pomaris and a second from Vice President Richardson. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Siebel,
Yes.
Freeholder Vice President Richardson,
Yes.
Freeholder Pomares,
Yes.
Freeholder Mercado, absent Freeholder Luciano,
Yes.
Freeholder Johnson,
Yes.
Freeholder Graham,
Yes.
Freeholder Cooper, absent Freeholder President Gill.
Yes.
So moved.
Thank you. 31?
I think we just did 31. This would be 32.
32. Yep, excuse me.
Yes.
32.
No problem. We are seeking authorization for the renewal of the county's excess public officials and employment practices policy with Chubb Ace American, which is our incumbent carrier. Again, it's an annual premium. The annual premium is $121,380. Do we have any questions pertaining to that?
Mr. Prolavecchio, Ms. McInerney?
I have no questions.
Okay, thank you. Freeholders, questions or comments? Again, moved by Freeholder Pomaris, second by Vice President Richardson. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Cooper, absent Freeholder Graham,
Yes.
Freeholder Johnson,
Yes.
Freeholder Luciano,
Yes.
Freeholder Mercado, absent Freeholder Pomares,
Yes.
Freeholder Vice President Richardson,
Yes.
Freeholder Siebel,
Yes.
Freeholder President Gill.
Yes.
So moved.
Okay.
Number 33, we seek authorization for the renewal of the county's professional liability policy for the Essex County Hospital Center, which would be with Iron Shore Insurance. It's an annual premium, and the annual premium is $165,000. We're open to questions.
I don't have any questions.
Ms. McInerney?
Questions either? No.
Freeholders? Okay, again, moved by Freeholder Pomaris and second by Vice President Richardson. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Siebel,
Yes.
Freeholder Vice President Richardson,
Yes.
Freeholder Pomares,
Yes.
Freeholder Mercado, absent Freeholder Luciano,
Yes. Yes.
Freeholder Graham,
Yes.
Freeholder Johnson,
Yes.
Freeholder Cooper, absent Freeholder President Gill.
Yes.
So moved.
Number 34, we seek authorization for the renewal of the county's privacy liability policy, also known as cyber policy, with the incumbent carrier Chubb Ace American. Annual policy, and the premium would be $31,785. We're open to questions.
McInerney? Excuse me, Mr. Polavecchio?
No questions for me.
Okay.
No questions.
Freeholders? Hearing or seeing none, moved by Freeholder Palmer, second by Vice President Richardson. They really like insurance.
Somebody has to, right?
Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Cooper, absent. Freeholder Graham,
Yes.
Freeholder Johnson,
Yes.
Freeholder Luciano,
Yes.
Freeholder Mercado, absent. Freeholder Pomares,
Absolutely, yes.
Freeholder Vice President Gill, Freeholder Vice President Richardson,
Yes, because I love insurance.
Freeholder Sebo,
Me too, yes.
Freeholder President Gill.
Yes.
So moved.
I have never felt such love. This brings us to 35, our final one. Seeking authorization for renewal of the county's pollution liability policy. This, once again, is with our incumbent carrier, Chubb Ace American. It is an annual policy, and the annual premium is $25,348.18. We are open to questions.
Mr. Polavecchio?
Yeah, quick one. Mr. Walker, is this an increase, decrease from last year?
I believe it is a slight increase. I will, if you give me 1 second, I'll give you the exact amount. It's actually not an increase. It's a nominal increase. It's a little less than 2% increase.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, Ms. McInerney?
Does this cover remediation cost if there is pollution?
Yes, as long as it's from a covered loss, it is the cost to remediate, clean up, and restore the facility, as well as any third-party claims that may derive from the covered loss.
Do we still have a underground, storage tanks for fuel?
Yes, yes. Matter of fact, we have to identify them with every renewal.
Okay. And are there ones that are closed or filled or?
No, we have the records historically, but if they're closed and filled, they're considered to not be a potential source of pollution.
Okay, thanks, Tim.
No problem.
Okay. Freeholders, additional questions or comments? Again, I have a motion by Freeholder Palmaris and a second by Vice President Richardson. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Sebo,
Yes.
Freeholder Vice President Richardson,
Yes.
Freeholder Pomares,
Yes.
Freeholder Mercado, absent. Freeholder Luciano,
Yes.
Freeholder Graham. Yes. Freeholder Johnson,
Yes.
Freeholder Cooper,
Yes.
Freeholder President Gill.
Yes.
So moved.
Okay, thank you. Moving to resolution number 36. We can read into the record at a later time. Mr. Jackson?
Mr. President, item 36 is a contract award to Altec Nuevo for the Office of the Prosecutor for the purchase of one 2012 Ford F-550 bucket lift truck. According to New Jersey local public contract law, any contract which exceeds the bid threshold may be negotiated and awarded by the governing body without publicly advertising for bids and shall be awarded by resolution of the governing body if subject matter thereof consists of the acquisition, subject to the prior approval of the Attorney General, of special equipment for confidential security matters. The requisite approval on behalf of the Attorney General is attached to this package, which the prosecutor's office received, and would like to purchase this vehicle without going through the normal bid process for the reasons I just noted. And the amount of the contract is $59,900.
Okay. Mr. Parlavecchio?
No questions.
Mr. McInerney?
No questions.
Freeholders, questions or comments?
Mr. President, as a reminder, Freeholder Mercado is absent.
Okay. Any additional questions or comments, Freeholders? We have a motion from Freeholder Luciano and a second by Freeholder Palmaris. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Cooper,
Yes.
Freeholder Graham,
Yes.
Freeholder
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Freeholder Luciano,
Yes.
Freeholder Mercado, absent. Freeholder Palmares,
Yes.
Freeholder Vice President Richardson,
Yes.
Freeholder Sebo,
Yes.
Freeholder President Gill.
Yes.
So moved.
Okay, moving to resolution number 37. Freeholder Seabold.
Resolution number 37 is in support of Black Lives Matter. Only one other county has proposed such a resolution, and that was Mercer County. And Freeholder Sam Frisbee introduced the resolution in Mercer County, and I discussed it with him, and I thought it would be a great idea for Essex County to be the second county to have such a resolution in the agenda. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Freeholder Seabold. Additional comments and questions from Freeholders?
Hi, Freeholder President. This is Freeholder Cooper. I would like to be a sponsor of this resolution, and I would ask if it could be done by acclamation if everybody is in support of it.
I think that's a great idea. I think it should be by
You can
acclamation.
certainly add my name, Freeholder Richardson.
If it's acclamation, it's everyone.
You can also add my name to it, to Freeholder Johnson.
Freeholder Palmaris, I'd be honored to be on it as well.
Great. Do we have any freeholders who object to doing it by acclamation? Seeing and hearing none, this is being moved by, we'll do it by acclamation, being moved by Freeholder Seabold and second by Vice President Richardson. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Seabold,
Absolutely, yes.
Freeholder Vice President Richardson,
Yes.
Freeholder Palmares,
Yes.
Freeholder Mercado, absent. Freeholder Luciano,
Yes.
Freeholder Johnson,
Yes.
Freeholder Graham,
Yes.
Freeholder,
Yes.
Freeholder Cooper,
Yes.
and did I call you Freeholder Richardson? I mean Freeholder Johnson.
Yes.
Freeholder Cooper,
Yes.
Freeholder President Gill.
Yes.
So moved.
Okay, moving to resolution number 38, which is advocating to make Juneteenth a national holiday. Also potentially could be done by acclamation. I know we did have sponsors in Vice President Richardson, Freeholder Siebold, and Freeholder Mercado, but could also do this through acclamation, and would open it up if anyone else would like to speak on this resolution.
Sure, absolutely.
If I could add, I think it's a very good idea to have this one by acclamation also. I think it's very necessary, and I'm happy that this is on the agenda.
Freeholder
This is Fiona
Pomares.
Cooper, I would concur. Sorry.
Freeholder Cooper?
And so do I. Oh, I'm sorry, I was deferring to Freeholder Pomares.
Thank you, Freeholder. I would just like to agree with being on by acclamation, and being added as a sponsor by acclamation would be preferred.
Okay, by acclamation, it is. We have a apologize. We have moved by Vice President Richardson and second by Freeholder Johnson. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Mr. President, through you, I'd like to say a few words.
Oh, sure, yeah. I apologize. I did ask if anybody wanted to speak on the resolution.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
So you know, for a lot of formerly enslaved people, you know, the country recognizes July 4th as the Independence Day, but that's not true for the entire country, especially formerly enslaved persons. It was actually, you know, we fought for and alongside in the Revolutionary War. Matter of fact, the first person killed was a black man, Crispus Attucks. But fighting in that particular war, African Americans we continued in slavery. We didn't get any freedom. So, and then in Texas, and after the Civil War, when the Confederates states lost their bid to maintain slavery and to keep slavery, everybody wasn't free even then. In Texas, it took a year and a half, almost 2 years before they got the message that they were free. So that's why we celebrate Juneteenth. So yeah, it should be a national holiday. You know, enslaved persons helped build this country, build its wealth, and for no compensation. Even after the Civil War, the traders who went against the Union, the unifying of the country, they were compensated for their loss of free labor. A lot of people don't know that. But the formerly enslaved persons endured Jim Crow and every other thing you can possibly think of. So I think it's important that persons and folks know exactly what Juneteenth is and exactly what happened to African Americans in this country. And all of those things are connected. So I think we should have and should recognize that holiday, because how can you have one without the other? If everyone wasn't truly free on the 4th of July celebration in terms of the Revolutionary War, so then how can you expect formerly enslaved person to recognize that? That's not when we got freedom. So I appreciate my colleagues signing on to this. It's very important. And I think that history needs to be taught, and we don't talk about it, the things that African Americans have endured in this country enough. So thank you. That's all I got.
Mr. President, if I might just add, that's why I firmly believe that this should be a national holiday. And the Freeholder Vice President, Wayne Richardson, expressed it fully. One thing he left out was that the slaves built the White House in Washington, D.C., and we shouldn't forget that either. And that is why this should be a national holiday. Thank you.
Totally agree with all. Concur with everything. Well said. Well said by all. Any additional comments, freeholders? Can't wait till we get back into the chambers. Freeholders, the joys of running a meeting and parenting. We had a mover in Vice President Richardson and a second by Freeholder Johnson. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Richardson.
Yes.
Freeholder Johnson.
Yes.
Freeholder Cooper.
Yes.
Freeholder Graham.
Yes.
Freeholder Luciano.
Yes.
Freeholder Mercado, absent. Freeholder Pomares.
Yes.
Freeholder Siebel.
Yes.
Freeholder President Gill.
Yes.
So moved.
Okay, thank you, Madam Clerk. Moving to resolutions 39 through 50.
Mr. President,
Yes, Freeholder Siebel.
first of all, 39 through 45 are in memoriam, and I would like to very much be included in those, or I would like that to be by acclamation, because I know at least 3 of these people who unfortunately deceased, and I would very much like to be on that. And also 47 is for our Chief James Fango, and I would very much like to be on that one also. And I think you were doing through 49, correct?
Correct.
That's it.
Or through, I'm sorry, through, yeah, through 49.
Yeah. Acclamation 39 through 45 and 47. Thank you.
Nope. I have no objection for acclamation from any of those.
Thank you.
No problem. No problem. Freeholders. So I have a motion from Freeholder Graham and a second from Freeholder Johnson for 39 through 50. I'm sorry, 39 through 49. 50 was an agenda item. Apologize. 39 through 49. Madam Clerk, the roll.
Freeholder Cooper.
Yes.
Freeholder Graham.
Yes.
Freeholder Johnson.
Yes.
Freeholder Luciano.
Yes.
Freeholder Mercado, absent. Freeholder Pomares.
Yes.
Freeholder Vice President Richardson.
Yes.
Freeholder Siebel.
Yes.
Freeholder President Gill.
Yes.
So moved.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Moving resolution, agenda item number 50, we already have taken. Resolution 51 is a non-binding resolution that I am sponsoring, which opposes the current policy of ICE transferring our immigration detainees. Fairly straightforward, and it is calling, since the board has already called for the release of our ICE detainees during this pandemic. Also, this is a resolution asking ICE to stop transferring our immigration detainees to other facilities, particularly in light of the fact that one of the reasons that we have debated around this contract is the idea that even if the contract did not exist, that the detainees would be moved to that the ICE detainees would be moved to facilities that are much further from their families, first and foremost, and farther from both proper legal and health care that we could provide. So this is a non-binding resolution expressing that opinion to ICE directly, and follows up on the board's resolution asking for the release of all ICE detainees that are being held due to their immigration status as a way to reduce, the risk of COVID-19.
Mr. President,
Yes.
I would very much like to be included on this resolution.
No problem.
Through you, Mr. President, Freeholder, Vice President Richardson, you can certainly add my name to that.
Thank you.
Mr. President, Freeholder Pomares, I'd like to be included if it's not done by acclamation as well.
Any objection to doing this by acclamation, freeholders?
Acclamation is a good idea.
It's a Freeholder Vice President. This is Freeholder Cooper. Question. I'd love to support the resolution. Is it in the packet? Did we get it or no? You're walking this on right now.
Madam Clerk?
It was emailed out this morning, and a member of the staff also called the freeholders.
Was the copy of the resolution emailed in the packet and also emailed, Madam Clerk?
The copy of the resolution.
I think the question that Freeholder Cooper is asking is, I don't think she's had an opportunity to review the resolution, but it's not something that's being added now, but it was added this morning.
Yes. It was emailed and added to the on-site agenda also.
All right, I'm sorry. Then I must have missed it. I read most of my email while I was sitting here, so I'm sorry. Forgive me if I overlooked it. But
no problem.
Just give me a minute.
Freeholder Cooper, we don't have to.
I'm gonna scan it. See if I can find. Ms. Ford, do you know who sent it? Was it sent from you?
It was sent. The resolution plus the revised agenda was sent out early this afternoon by the deputy clerk. So you will find it from Deborah Marvel.
All right. I don't want to hold up the process.
And through you, Mr. President, every day, early afternoon or a few hours before the meeting, Kathy from our staff also calls the freeholders. And as our procedure and process, in addition to the email being mailed and the revised agenda, including the resolution, every freeholder was also called to inform them of the addition.
Okay, freeholder, Cooper, if you're more comfortable, you don't have to take it by acclamation if you haven't had a chance and you don't want to be a sponsor. That's also an option.
No, I'm okay. Go ahead.
Okay. Hearing or seeing no other comments, I'm going to move it with a second from Freeholder Johnson. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Okay. Freeholder Sebel,
Yes.
Freeholder Vice President Richardson,
Yes.
Freeholder Pomares,
Yes.
Freeholder Mercado, absent, Freeholder Luciano,
Yes.
Freeholder Johnson, Freeholder Johnson. He's indicating yes. Freeholder Graham, Freeholder Graham,
Yes.
Freeholder Cooper,
Yes.
Freeholder President Gill,
Yes.
Freeholder President Gill.
Yes.
So moved.
What about me?
Freeholder Sebel,
Yes.
I apologize. So moved.
Okay, moving to report of board committees. Legislative reports, written communication, unfinished business, new business. Okay, Madam Clerk, let's move to public comment on non-agenda items. Since we're meeting remotely, the public's had the opportunity to submit questions and comments for consideration. Please state the name of the constituent, identify the topic, and you will read their comments and questions into the record, and you will respond to them in writing. Madam Clerk, how many comments do we have?
One, and with several names that we'll mention who have the same comment. So one will be read. 2, 3.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. President, the first comment is from Maya Salas, no address given. Greetings, Essex County Freeholders. Hello, my name is Maya Salas. I am pleased to see the Freeholders pass a resolution calling on ICE to release detainees earlier this month, but was disappointed that the resolution included language that criminalizes immigrants. This language perpetuates the false stereotype that immigrants are criminals and allows officials to discriminate which detained immigrants deserve basic human rights. Although the resolution is a start, your moral obligation does not end here. Essex County has released fewer detainees for proportionality than other facility, and Essex County has made more than $100 million over the last decade from inhumane caging of immigrants. You have justified this contract by arguing that it benefits detainees by keeping them close to their families. We know, however, this is untrue. ICE is currently transferring people to detention facilities around the country. We heard that you'll be accepting new intakes again soon. If you believe immigrants deserve to be close to their families, then you have a moral obligation to speak up against ICE actions and to freeze new intakes for the duration of the pandemic. Ultimately, the only just solution is ending the county's contract with ICE. Until then, how are you going to pressure ICE to end these transfers? Will you use the power and connections you have to achieve that? I'd like to know what your plan is to help detainees instead of simply profiting from their detention. The same comments and questions were submitted by Hannah Wetter, Samantha Myers, Christian Diaz, Max Pendergrass, Paige Mars, Kathleen Para, Nicole Parcher, Athena Botbol, Lena Fernandez, Deanna D. Magali, Sonia Baruka, Natalie Makulich, Meg Tang, Angela Guadani, Emma Yora, Abigail Kirchman, Alex Zucker, and Han Brokeman. The next comment was submitted by Ashley Trudeau, no address given. Dear Essex County Board of Freeholders, Essex County contract with ICE to detain immigrants at the county jail is a moral and tactical failure. When the freeholders did pass a resolution calling for ICE to release the detainees, the county jail will still be accepting dozens of people transferred from other facilities. This negates any effect of the resolution while also putting staff, correction officers, detainees, and inmates in jeopardy of getting sick. Keeping people out of detention is the only way to keep people safe during this pandemic. The justification freeholders have given for this contract, that detainees are benefited by keeping them close to their families, also rings insincere. We know ICE transfer people out of Essex County detention to facilities far away from their families. You have a moral obligation to speak up against ICE actions and freeze new intakes for the duration of the pandemic. The Essex County has made more than $100 million over the last decade for caging immigrants. This evil needs to be stopped. The county must end its contract with ICE and establish a safe legal process for the release of detainees. And the final comment was submitted by Dennis Blanchard of New Providence, New Jersey. 1, you must end the ICE contract. 2, in the ICE contract in a responsible way so people are not transferred. 3, you must create a public and transparent process to solicit stakeholder input. 4, set a date for that contract. 5, in the interim, and particularly during the pandemic, accept no transfers from other facilities, no rollovers from the correction side of the jail, and no new emissions from community enforcement. Mr. President, that includes public comment.
Freeholder comment session. Freeholders, do you have any?
Yes, through you, Mr. President. Freeholder Richardson, I have a question for the administration, Mr. Jackson. Just wanted to get an update on the disparity study to see where we are and what's going on with that. You're muted, can't hear you.
Yes, Mr. Vice President. We are we're putting it out for a longer period of time. One of the issues is, as you might imagine, at the colleges and some of the places who might respond, there's nobody there to even fill out to respond to the request. So we're putting it out, giving it a long return time to get back to us. So I think we'll be ready to engage somebody toward the end of the year.
Thank you.
Okay. Freeholder comment session. Freeholder Cooper.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have a question for Mr. Jackson. I recall seeing a advertisement from, I think it went out as a part of an e-blast from the city of Newark related to business grants being available with a deadline date, a closeout date of July 8th. Do you have a roll-up from the state agency? Did we get a lot of people applying for that, Essex County businesses?
Yes, as a matter of fact, you mean for the money that the 10 million that we did? Is that what you're referring to?
Yes, I remember seeing a deadline of July 8th for that. So that would, I think, been yesterday.
Yeah, but there's actually for the money that we put out, there have been 3,914 people who have applied for that money from Essex County to apply for that support. The typical grant so far looks like it's about $3,500. So when you pencil all that out, that's about $13.9 million of grant request. The state of New Jersey, through its fund, is going to do about 4.5. So that leaves about $9.2 million that'll be absorbed, that we can absorb to the $10 million that we put in. So it looks like there's a good call for that money. And with another $800 to $1,000 to $1 million available. So if people are still interested in that fund through the NJEDA, there's still money available, grant money, dollars free that could be used for that. So if people are interested, they should still go on and apply from Essex County.
So the money that we approved earlier, that's the phase 2 that we're introducing to this program?
That's our supplement to the EDA's phase 2. The EDA's
Okay.
put in 45 million. We put in an additional 10. And right now, it looks like we would absorb, given what's already been submitted, it looks like we would absorb about 9.2 million of that 10. So there's still more money to be allocated, given the fact that the average seems to be about $3,500 per application.
Are nonprofit organizations eligible for this?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Freeholder, additional questions or comments? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
So moved.
Second.
Thanks, everyone.